Good afternoon and welcome to Maximo Bite Size, a podcast on the functionality of Maximo Manage. Today is the 14th and last episode in the series on asset management, and we will be discussing asset relationships. Of all the aspects of locations and assets, then asset relationships may be the least likely to be used unless you are also using Maximo Linear, where it is important. The relationships application defines a set of nouns that describe a relationship between two assets or an asset and a location. The type is bidirectional or unidirectional. For example, A connects B is bidirectional because it can be read in the opposite direction as B connects A. In this example, the relationship is connects. There is a hidden attribute complementary relationship, which can be used to pair two unidirectional relationships. If you add the complementary relationship on one of the relationship records, it will be added to the other record. The classification field serves no purpose other than to define a type of relationship. There is no corresponding specification. The Use With field would be set to Asset. The other option is CI, a configuration item, and this is the default for new records. You may want to change this. Configuration items are used in IT environments for something which is under configuration control. In the Maximo world, it could be a document. The allow override is used if you enter asset relationship rules. This defines the type of assets that can be related to other types of assets. The type of asset is defined by a classification. For example, you could say that a relationship can be used with a particular source classification and a particular target classification. For example, a relationship of intersects is only used between two assets, each with a classification of road. The validation rules can be extended down to include conditions on attribute values of the source or target in the relationship. This will validate that the attribute in the source or target specification has a value which you specify and a condition like is equal to, greater than or equal to, etc. There are buttons to create a group of conditions or a new line item in the condition, and a qualifier for how lines are combined, an AND or. The relationship between groups of rules is always an OR. When the validation rules are defined and used on an asset, you may receive an error message like BMX AA8016E, the rule validation for the relationship failed, rule conditions must be met for the relationship to be established. If you use the allow override attribute on a relationship, then instead of an error, you will receive a warning with yes/no buttons. For example, BMX AA8021W, the relationship rule validations failed. Do you want to override the validation rules for this relationship and allow the relationship to be created? Relationships are defined at the system level. Asset relationships. Asset relationships are added in the Assets Application and Relationships tab. Asset relationships are also defined at the system level, but there is only one site ID and org ID, therefore it is expecting both the source and target to be in the same site. That site should be the site where the current asset record resides. You are adding a relationship between a source and a target. There are two pairs of fields, source asset or source location. Only one of these can be used. Target asset or target location. Again, only one of these can be used. The current asset must be either the source asset or the target asset, otherwise you will receive an error message. Therefore, while you may think you can add a relationship between a source location and a target location, you can't. The error message will be displayed. When creating an asset relationship record, think whether the current asset is the source or the target in the relationship you wish to use, and add the asset into the appropriate field. Now go to the other end of the relationship and enter an asset or location. Of course, it is always easiest to enter this as you would write it, starting with the source asset or location. But if this is not the current asset, then the current asset must be entered as the target asset. The sequence number allows you to enter multiple relationships and display them in a logical order. The use as reference field would only be used with linear assets, and if you are not using linear assets, then this field can be hidden. Above the relationships table window is a field that allows you to filter relationships according to whether the current asset is the source, target, or the view all option allows you to see both. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast episode, and I look forward to seeing you in the next series when we will review maintenance planning, starting with people and person groups. The music is called Busy City from the group called Track Tribe. Please check them out on tracktribe.com, all one word. Until another time, goodbye.